The Hawksbee and Jacobs podcast on TalkSport with Yorkshire Tea, the official brew of England cricket.
This is Paul Hawksbee
and Andy Jacobs,
and welcome once again to the H&J Daily, the best bits of this afternoon show. Well, refocus. No expense spent on that one.
No, but it was fun.
It was fun. It was our old mate Mickey Quinn, of course, of Breakfast Show and Weekend Breakfast, formerly. And Mickey looked back to when he was 29 years old, playing for Newcastle.
That's right. We had a bit of a chat about last night, your experiences at Wembley.
Yeah, we did.
And
other stuff besides.
Yeah, talked a bit about the Beckhams.
You got the latest on your Spanish dating app. How are you getting on there? Not app, but, you know.
Oh, yeah, it's going
thing you signed up for accidentally.
You think I did it deliberately?
Brackets, accidentally. And what else did we do? Antoine Griezmann, the fine France and Atletico Madrid player, is going to represent himself. He's binned his agents. So we asked the top agent, John Smith, what he made of that and found out some interesting stuff. So we hope you enjoy it. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Andy.
Good afternoon, Paul. And yes, it was a little bit unfortunate, wasn't it? It didn't quite work out. It was a sort of great atmosphere, but I think, like you said about the Olympic Stadium, the singing, certainly on television, appeared dispersed. Pockets of small singing would break out. There was occasional "Come on, you Spurs" in the traditional, but it wasn't like it was like 35,000 of the 80,000 knew the songs. But I'm sure that wasn't the case.
No. I think generally people were joining in. I mean, right at the start. I mean, everybody was at it, and it was making a lot of noise. It was a bit of a surreal experience, really. I mean, all the years I've been going to Tottenham, to have a home game, I mean, it was completely alien territory for us. You try and make it home, but it's never going to be the case, is it?
It's just not as intimidating as White Hart Lane.
No, absolutely
I'm surprised he didn't want to make the pitch smaller, because it looked like Spurs had a bit of a problem.
Would Wembley let them do that? I mean, we met the groundsman a little while ago. Maybe that's a question we should have asked him.
It's up to Spurs, isn't it? It's only markings. They can say, look, groundsman, don't mark it 105, make it 101. You know.
Do you think that they would have been allowed to do that?
I've no idea, but it's an interesting point, isn't it? I think I'd be thinking about that. I think I would have gone for the same dimension as White Hart Lane. It's easy now after the event.
But that, like he says, that's just a pitch, isn't it? Would it have made that much difference psychologically? I mean, you're on top of teams. I mean, I still think at White Hart Lane we would have won that game last night. But I'm not blaming Wembley solely for it, as isn't the manager. I am slightly surprised when we got the team news walking up Wembley Way. And he decided, as all season effectively, he's played two nominally sitting midfielders. It's been Wanyama and Dyer. It's normally, as we know, Dembele and Dyer. Well, I know they don't just sit there. That's not their job. But it's two players with a defensive eye. And last night, when we saw the team news, OK, he's playing Lamela and he's playing Son. So he's effectively going for it a bit. Yeah. And although he played Dele Alli slightly deeper, that's not really his best position and doesn't get the best out of him. So it was odd. I thought, well, that's a bit cocky, that. It's a bit cocky in Europe to think, we'll go toe-to-toe, we'll put more attacking players on the pitch.
The defending wasn't great, though, was it? And
no, it wasn't.
That didn't help, really.
I mean, a lot of our better players didn't really have a great game last night. And some individual errors.
A bit off as well. It was quite a strange performance. John Champion said at one point, only two Spurs players hadn't experienced the Champions League, Toby Alderweireld and Son. All right. For all your funeral needs.
That's right. That'd be a great sitcom, wouldn't it? They could own a rag and bone place. So, that was a bit of a surprise. And I said to you earlier on, just before Alderweireld scored and made a game of it, there was about a 5-minute period where it was like watching England versus Iceland.
Oh dear.
And all those players, all those Tottenham players who played in that game, I think they basically had a flashback. They were thinking, 85,000 people at Wembley, everyone's going to be saying we've choked again. And they stopped functioning for 5 minutes. Balls were cannoning off people's calves, they were running it into touch. I think they need a good sports psychologist. Everybody who played in that Iceland game
to score,
needs help. Well, I know, we felt certainly second half we'd go on and
Dembele
and
makes a difference, but Harry Kane's still not himself, is he? And but look, it's very early days, and we'll see what happens. I'd love Leicester to do a Leicester and win the Champions League.
That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Yeah, of course that made it even better from our point of view. We just goals flashing up. The Leicester have scored 3, making you feel 10 times worse about what you're doing at the same time. City, of course, are scoring lots of goals.
It was also interesting when the referee, it looked like he might have given a penalty. When all that.
Well, we were all standing saying, well, it can't be because the ball wasn't in play. So I couldn't quite see. Yeah,
isn't it amazing how players don't know the laws of the game because they all surrounded the ref. They all thought he was going to give a penalty.
They also seem to think the fifth official was in charge because they seem to take it out on one of the Harry Potters, and as opposed to the referee.
I just wonder though, perhaps that law needs changing because in the end you think maybe that should be a foul. I mean, it was ridiculous the way he just threw him to the ground. That's crazy.
I don't think the ref was that great. I mean, for either team really. I just think it's one of those typical. This is something else I think teams have to learn in Europe. Just over fussy refereeing, they're cuter. The Monaco players know any little bump, they're on the floor, they get a free kick. As soon as really most of the time you hit the floor in Europe, even in the Champions League, where normally the refs
Spurs are full of European players too. They should know that as well. So I don't know. They've been in the Champions League before, so they should know all that, and they've been in the Europa League. So we'll see. But yeah. Falcao, though, he didn't look much better than he did at Chelsea or United. He looked so heavy. As Warren Horton used to put it so beautifully, he looked like he was towing a caravan.
Yes.
It's an old prose thing, but it was perfect description. It just looked so heavy.
I did enjoy the work of Bernard Silva.
Bernardo Silva.
The guy who got the first goal. And obviously the right back that United tried to sign as well.
Harry and Glenn would say, don't show him on his, on the inside. It's not a great idea.
It was. I mean, Danny Rose was a big miss last night, That was another issue. But hey... it was, as occasions go, it was up there.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're facing 3 years of playing there potentially,
I don't fancy
week.
it. I think it's a mistake. I do. But they've got problems there. But I'm hoping the Bats win. I'm hoping the Bats that are delaying things actually decide they can't redevelop the whole thing. I can't actually see the point of it.
Of not increasing the ground at Chelsea, not increasing the size of the ground?
Mind you, it depends on the old financial fair play. If that comes back into a situation, then maybe they need to. But, it's a lot. 3 years away from your own home stadium. I mean, you'll get used to it, but, first year or so, you can't expect to, you wouldn't expect Spurs or Chelsea to finish in the top four. Playing at Wembley.
I've always been lucky enough to live kind of within the vicinity of the ground. Probably one of the reasons why I support the team and my local club.
15 minutes.
And that's what it used to be when I first started supporting Spurs when I was a kid, and that sort of changed. No more than about 50 minutes to get home. So that's a bit of a shock when it takes you 45 minutes just to get in the tube station.
That's not ideal.
No. So I mean that's going to be a bit of fun in games next year. But look. It's for a good cause. They're going to get a new stadium out of it, so we'll just suck it up.
And they've obviously got that massive fan base. There's no question about it. Others wouldn't have filled Wembley like that. You see, this was an interesting story. The number of non-nuisance calls to the police non-emergency line has been slashed by allowing the phone to ring 6 seconds before answering, an experiment has found. So if people have got a spurious claim...
They won't wait 6 seconds?
They won't wait for 6 rings.
Oh, okay.
6 seconds, rather, yeah.
My legs fell off, I'll leave it.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to wait this long, I'll leave it.
But it's amazing. It's designed for the public to report a crime, a traffic accident, or minor offences and links to the local police station. However, 1 in 5 calls is classified as inappropriate, ranging from callers complaining about a neighbour's dog barking to the size of their council bill. Who rings up the police and says, I'm not happy with my council bill?
Well, you often use that phrase as criminal, but it doesn't mean you should phone 999.
I did ring them up about Andre Mariner.
Did you?
Yeah, but they ignored me.
I'm sure they would do if that was more than 6 rings, definitely.
I'd have waited 26 rings to complain about that decision, but there you go. Manchester City have signed, we read this morning, singing robots to entertain fans at matches. The humanoids, because you can't say robots twice, will perform tricks around the Etihad Stadium.
Tricks?
Yeah. I was thinking they could bring them in for the next Champions League game, just stick them behind the goal.
Yeah.
To make it a bit more noise and a few more people.
Well, that's a bit harsh. That's very harsh. You're asking everybody to sort of drop everything at 24 hours' notice. We don't know what people have got planned for their lives, do we?
Yes, all right. Only a joke. I'm actually having a go at City fans.
Oh, okay. Well, they may not see it that way. I'm just slightly standing their corner.
I'm bothered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go. Shia LaBeouf, I mean, he's, have you seen he's in the John McEnroe remake of the film, Borg versus McEnroe? I don't know if you saw this in The Sun this morning. The thing is, though, it's interesting. You think they'd have found an actor who can play left-handed because he's right-handed. So that's completely immediately you think, well, that's not very good. And also, I reckon Roger Kitter looks more like he does.
Well, that's a name from the past. All the Roger Kitter fans out there.
He did that big song, didn't he? You Cannot Be Serious. That was his big hit.
But it wasn't Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, I don't know what number. Let me try and find out what number it got to in the charts. Andy, you say a big hit, and let's look at the year.
I think it might have got to number 1. I think in about 1695.
I don't think it did get to number 1.
And this is Louis Theroux has announced a competition which I reckon is possibly one of the worst prizes of any competition you could ever have. Basically, he's looking for his ultimate double. The documentary filmmaker, 46, appealed on social media for snaps of lookalikes. And in 24 hours, he received thousands of Louis mirror images from all over the world. The best could win tickets for his Australian tour, but will have to pay to get there. It's not much of a prize, is it? You can go and see a thing that you could possibly see anywhere for about 10 quid or 15 quid or whatever he charges. But you've got to spend $2,000 getting there. Not much point, is it, really?
So no expenses covered? No. Not even a train from sort of Melbourne or Sydney Airport into town? Nothing? Okay, fair
Talking
enough.
of that...
let me just bring you this breaking news. It remained in the charts for 8 weeks. I think peaking at number 19, Andy.
Number
19. So not quite there. It was a top 10 hit in the Netherlands, Belgium, and South Africa.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So there we are.
And I was about to mention something there, just as you took my focus away.
Okay.
Oh, where was I? Damn, I was about to link to something and I can't remember. That's annoying when you do that.
Strong language there from
Andy
Andy
Jacob. Annoying when you do that. Jimmy Carr is one of the favourites to be presenting the new Bake Off.
No, he's not.
He's 12 to 1.
One of the listeners pointed out yesterday he'll be doing 8 out of 10 cats does the Bake Off, but I won't be doing the Bake Off.
Well, I was going to say, you're going to have to change the name of the show to 8 out of 10 cakes.
Oh, nice. Well, I think you've just given them a format. Well done, Andy. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. And, what else? Eddie Jones. You see, he was at Southampton yesterday taking notes. It's interesting that he looks at other sports. It's one of the reasons why he's so good, I suppose. But you'd think it'd be more like Claude Puel going to study Eddie Jones rather than the other way around. Right?
Yeah.
But
he loves his rugby. His dad was a rugby player, wasn't he? Apparently, Claude Puel.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's right. I think he's properly into the game, so that was the tie-up there.
Good.
Is that it?
I think that's it, really, yeah.
You've basically covered everything.
I've got another thing, yeah. Brooklyn Beckham. Have you seen this story? This is fantastic. He's landed a massive contract, if I can find it here, for about $100,000, apparently, if this is true.
Oh, yeah.
And for some modelling assignment, which you think, that's absolutely amazing, really. Well, once have you changed his name to Brooklyn Smith? Do you think they'd still keep rolling in?
Well, do you think he's trading on the family name somewhat?
I'd say he slightly is, really. Yeah, definitely.
Why don't you change your name to Beckham and see if the work... Andy Beckham.
I know, it's
see if the work keeps coming in.
He was unveiled for just months after the Sun revealed...
starts coming in.
He signed a $100,000 contract to promote the Honor 8 mobile phone. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's sort of been compared to Justin Bieber. But by the Sun in the same article.
Oh, OK, fair enough.
But Justin Bieber... You think at least he's actually a singer. At least he's actually done something. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit of an odd thing. This, she was saying yesterday.
Who's she?
Posh.
Oh, right.
Her family.
Somebody talking to someone in the hairdressers. Oh, she said yesterday. Who? Posh. Who's Posh?
Victoria Beckham.
Yeah.
She says. This is what she said. She said her family are so talented. It's like being in a travelling circus.
Really?
That's what she said. Gifted children provide non-stop entertainment with their skills. Brooklyn is a keen photographer, apparently. Cruz is a budding pop star. The last we need is an album from him. And Harper is already a fashionista, like her mum.
This is a distant member of my family. Do you mind? According to who do you think you are?
It's ridiculous. I don't mind anybody doing well, but I feel you've got to earn it rather than just be... just your name and that's it. But, yeah.
Well,
people think it's value for money.
Well, you changed yours from Eisenhower, didn't you? Just to prove that point, really. You weren't going to live off the family name.
What?
Now, listeners who tuned in the other day may have discovered that completely by accident, possibly via Facebook, we now understand, Andy has found himself getting regular invitations from Spanish men and women for dates. You've signed up accidentally to a Spanish dating website, haven't you?
I think it's happened through Facebook. I don't know how it's happened, and that's where the link seems to be coming from. So I don't know. So it's strange. I don't know. You never know how they get your email, because I definitely didn't sign up for it.
Well, you say that now.
I didn't.
You're not even by accident?
I wouldn't have brought it up if I'd signed up for it, would I? I wouldn't bring it to your attention if it was actually true.
Is the age profile fitting with the sort of people you're being offered?
Well, there's Anna, 19. She's a bit young.
Well, it doesn't. Yeah, I think she probably is.
Brittany, 21. But Anna, 45. Unfortunately, she looks a bit like Crackers, our old mate, which is slightly unfortunate.
So that's goodness me.
I don't think I'll be going.
So this is quite scattergun in terms of ages. They've not. They would point to the fact you didn't actually sign up.
Lauren, 21.
Okay, yeah, all right, we'll get the idea. So, has your wife seen this? Has she seen that you're getting regular invitations
No, she hasn't.
People from Spain to have a night out?
No, I haven't told her, no.
Well, I think you're on national radio. I think you might be pushing it now. The word might get back to her.
She won't mind. She knows I'm not going to take it up.
No, no, I know you're not. I know you're not, Andy.
I'm not going to be contacting Lauren 21.
Well, what about Crackers 45?
Yeah, possibly
there. Yeah. Just have a good football chat.
Yeah, I think so.
She'll be sitting outside. Sitting outside the training ground at Valencia on transfer deadline day.
Up about John Terry, so I don't think I will.
Yeah, that's probably right. It's time to refocus. We go through an old shoot match, 90 minutes. In this case, it's the secret side of Newcastle's Mick Quinn. Whatever happened to him?
Yes, I don't know.
He joins us now. Good afternoon, Quinny.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Andy.
Right, two doses of you today we've had, haven't we? Which we're always doing. I mean, yeah, you're a tough booking, Mick, but thanks very much for doing it.
No problem, boys. By the way, I've already put on £5 working it out since I've left the weekend sports break.
You would do.
10 packets of Jaffa cakes in the first hour, 6 till 7.
Yeah, we're picking.
Oh yeah, I wonder why there was some lying around the studio.
We're picking up the residue, me and Andy, of the old Jaffa cakes this afternoon.
Well, you're lucky, Mick, because this particular one doesn't say what your fighting weight was. Often the ones do. So we're not going to ask you about your weight.
What they do, I should say, which current footballer do you most admire and why? Remember, this is you, 29 years old, playing for Newcastle.
Oh,
I think you were crawling a bit. I'll give you a bit of a clue as to what you said.
Not Kevin Keegan.
No, you said Ozzy Ardiles in the five-a-side games, you said.
Oh, well, you see, there's 3 managers I had at Newcastle, so it was which period. But, yeah, Ozzy, I mean, you couldn't get near him.
Yeah.
Never took more than 2 touches, to first touch, to control, next one to pass. And he used to absolutely run rings around everybody, hence we couldn't win on the pitch, and he got the sack.
Yeah. You said he's still got more tricks than Tommy Cooper. I don't know if he did that one where.
Yeah.
And the farmer said,
turn that way and say, "You're playing up. You're on goal." I'm not in goal. I'm a striker, and he just turned around in different outfits. But so Joe Roy, your other old gaffer, you said it was like marking dust, wasn't it, when they played against older ones, Aussie? Yeah. So, what else have we got? The funniest thing that's ever happened to you during your career? Mick. I don't know if you put this in the after dinner set. I'm not sure. This is the funniest thing ever happened to you during your career.
During my career,
yes.
It wasn't. Do you remember a footballer called Brian Kettle? Used to play for Liverpool.
Oh yes, yeah.
And he went to Wigan, and I was at Wigan in the early '80s, very early '80s. And Glyn Snodden was playing for Doncaster, and Glyn Snodden went right over the top on Brian Kettle, and he went about 6 foot in the air.
Right.
Anyway, came down, sadly broke his leg.
That's taking the edge off it.
St. John's ambulance men came on, and they were a la the Benny Hill, the cap on the side, little rimmed glasses, a bit like yours, Andy. And then so they've come on with the stretcher, and they've lumped Brian onto the stretcher, which is the 4 of them started jogging off. And as they got to the touchline, he went out the side door, didn't he? He fell off the stretcher, which they attempted to put him back on. In the end, this is with a broken leg.
Wow.
He shooed them away and hopped off the pitch of his own accord. God. I just stood there absolutely laughing. But I suppose that wasn't the funniest moment, was it?
No, it wasn't.
No, they didn't put that one. It was to do with the two Quins. 2
Quins on the pitch. You and Tony Quinn. Larry Lloyd took you both off and then realised he'd got the wrong Quinn, and one of you had to get out of the bath and go back on again.
And at that time, there was, early in the 80s, there was only 1 sub. So he ripped into us, Larry Lloyd, give us all a rollicking. Half-time, took Tony off, took me off, and forgot we were going out second half with 10 men.
Well, this is an interesting one. Outside football, did you have any other claims to fame at that stage? You know what it was?
PJ.
What do you mean, PJ?
DJ.
Oh, I thought you said, who's PJ? I thought I'm supposed to know this.
DJ.
Oh, DJ. No, it wasn't
I
that.
used to have a disco, bus stop disco, claims to fame. at that time.
I'll tell you what it was. You were sponsoring someone from the world of sport.
Oh, a boxer in Newcastle, I think it was. Yeah. Sponsored all his boots, his kit, his shorts, his gloves, everything. And I watched him.
Remember his name?
And, I don't.
He left a deep impact.
You're a man after my own heart, Quinny. Yeah. John Pierre.
Well, he's going to be doing Don't Ask Me with Alan, I reckon.
John Pierre.
John Pierre is one of Glenn McCrory's fighters back in the day.
That was it, yeah. I used to bump into Glenn.
Yeah.
I like this question, though. Who was the wackiest person you ever met in football? Can you remember what you said?
It's like another life.
Yeah, well, of course.
The wackiest person. Outside of football, did you say?
No, I think in football, when I was a footballer.
The wackiest in footballer. I could only think it would be someone at Oldham.
You described him as a real weirdo. He's from a different planet.
Well, I never knew this about this person. He's actually from a different planet.
I'll give in. Go on.
It was Kevin Dillon.
Oh, yeah, he was a weirdo. we used to have to say in a Portsmouth, he's only happy when he's sad. And he was like Victor Meldrew of the football world. I didn't have him once. I had him twice, lads, as well, because he went from Portsmouth to Newcastle, and I went from Portsmouth to Newcastle, and I was there again for another 2 seasons with him. But he was a good footballer, but my goodness, he was from a different planet.
Well, your favourite TV personality, and which one can't you stand? Freddie Starr was the one you loved. Can you remember who you couldn't stand?
Wasn't that fella who says I didn't believe it?
No, it wasn't him, no. Have a listen to
Kevin
this.
Dillon.
This is not Kevin Dillon, no. That was one of his. He's only happy when he's sad. Have a listen to this to give you a clue as the personality you couldn't stand, yeah.
I know you're here, Nick. You ain't going to scare me tonight.
Hello, Ma. Happy Halloween.
Hello, Mark. Happy Halloween. Apostrophe A, apostrophe A.
Yeah, Nasty
Nick, yeah.
Nasty Nick, yeah. Come back more times than Elvis, didn't he?
You couldn't stand him.
Yeah. No, couldn't. Hello, Ma. He was a limited one. He's not like me.
Well, yeah, quite a few in
he was limited.
Show hard, really. But
okay, what else have we got here? If you weren't doing what you're doing now, sorry, I shall say that again. What would you be doing now? Yes, I'm like another planet. I'm only happy when I'm sad. I'm like Kevin Dillon.
I know what he's doing. He does the breakfast show.
He does, yeah. What would you be doing now if you weren't a professional footballer?
I'd be doing the breakfast show.
Mickey Quinn, age 29, the Newcastle striker.
Well, apart from the obvious robbing the lead off the roof, it would be. It would be. I always wanted to be a sports journalist, a bit like you two boys.
Wow.
But I don't know whether it's that or a musician, would it be, or something? Or
no,
DJ.
Really, basically what you ended up doing, assistant trainer to Mick Shannon.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, I knew Mick at Portsmouth, yeah. There was only 2 things I ever wanted to do, to be fair. Footballer and a horse race trainer, and I'm still waiting to be a horse race trainer.
Which brings us on to, which other sportsman would you like to meet and why? Have we got a bit of a clue for this one, Dave?
Well, we have. I mean, I'll tell you, let's get some guesses first. Can you think what you might have said back then?
Muhammad Ali. Well, I was a massive fan.
Well, it wasn't that. This is the clue.
Free straight on the far side. Hello, Dandy on the near side. There's nothing between them as they come to the line. Hello, Dandy on the near side is just going to win it. Hello, Dandy is running in Grease Paint. Is second and third is Corbiere. Fourth, Lucky Vane and 5 Stopper.
There we are.
We all made Neil Doughty.
Yeah,
he won
right.
the national on Hello Dandy for Gordon Richards. I was creeping a bit there, boys, because he
made a
used to
few
come to games. And he used to tip me a few winners, yeah. So.
Brilliant.
Most of this, Mick, is you're crawling to the manager, you're crawling to a bloke and getting tips for a few winners. You're trying to get a job with Mick Shannon. It's like
an audition.
It is. It's like a CV.
I love this question, though.
Who is the most boring person at your club at Newcastle? Who was the most boring person at Newcastle at the time?
Well, Ozzy was there, wasn't he? So it wasn't Ozzy. Got Kevin Dillon again.
It's not Kevin Dillon. You've got to leave Kevin Dillon alone. The bloke's going to get a complex.
The most boring, 89.
No,
not Mark McGee.
No, not Mark McGee. Scott Sloane you had it in for some reason.
Oh, Sloaney, yeah. He would talk a glass eye to sleep. He would. You know, when you're on the coach and all that, and then you go to a game and you start talking about something, you'd lose the will to live after about 5 minutes. He'd just drone on about anything, you know, and Scott, leave me alone. I'm going to play a game of cards, thanks. Yeah, slowly. No, he wouldn't be on a lot of people's household name of footballers. No, yeah, he was a good kid.
Just finally, your immediate and long-term ambitions. What do you think? What you might have said back at 21?
Would it be to be in racing? I would think, if you know, especially with Mick Shannon, or to win something with Newcastle. That was a big ambition.
Well, you said to score 30 goals this season. Did you quite manage it?
I scored 39 in my first season for Newcastle, so it was probably aiming to get another 30. I would think after that. No, I think I got 23 or 24 that season.
To get into the first division with Newcastle, did you do that?
Yeah. I so wanted it badly to get some sort of success with Newcastle, because that first season when we got all the goals, we got knocked out the playoffs. We got in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We got knocked out by the Mackhams. Could you believe it? So, yeah, I just sort of tasted the buzz around the city when we got to the playoffs and, you know, what it could have been like. And it just never quite worked out. So it was a shame.
Mick Sally, we've run out of time. You're back with Al next week, yeah? Is he gone?
He's gone.
Mickey? Is he there?
Well, thank him anyway.
Yeah, thank him anyway.
Quinny. Well done.
There we are. That was Mickey Quinn. That was Refocused. We'll do it all again next week. Find out more from Shoot magazine at the website shoot.co.uk. The Shoot Annual 2017 is now published and available at many leading retailers, including WH Smith and Amazon. Good afternoon, Hawksbee and Jacobs here on TalkSport with Yorkshire Tea. Let's have a proper brew. We're in the Yorkshire Tea break, and we're going to talk about Antoine Griezmann, a very much in-demand player. A few clubs would love to sign him, but he's just signed a new deal at Atletico. He's got a £100 million buyout clause, apparently, they say, release clause in his contract.
Perhaps he knows no one possibly would pay that a ridiculous amount of money, isn't it? Well, I suppose they might.
He's told the French newspaper L'Equipe that he's going to operate without an agent. He said, but I will always have the advice of my father and also my mentor, Eric Oldhatz. That's very old hat. He was the scout for Sociedad, who found him playing in France when he was a kid. He's a man he trusts, but he's going to play at the very top of the sporting food chain, acting without an agent. How's that going to pan out? Let's ask a top football agent. Was in last week chatting to us about his new book, The Deal. It's John Smith. Good afternoon, John.
Hey, chaps. How are you? I must tell you, I've just put the phone down to this guy called Eric Oldhat.
He wants to get you on board. But didn't we talk last week when we talked about this thing of maybe keeping the money in the family and more players often getting family involved? I mean, this sounds a little bit like this, John, doesn't it?
Well, actually, Team Beckham's not a million miles away from that. David and the family put themselves into a place, took themselves away from their last management, actually brought back Simon Fuller to run it for them, and they're now sort of part of the 19 stable. So that kind of sets the model. And in many cases, Hollywood stars, pop stars have similar managements where they have sort of, team whoever, and then they appoint a lawyer and an accountant and this one and that one. And I can see football going the same way, because we discussed this last week. The agency world has become so rapacious now. I mean, there's 1,600 agents just in England alone. And, in many cases, they're tripping over themselves. So to say, I want my own management set up, and I want my dad, and I've got an accountant, I've got a lawyer, and I'm going to have somebody coordinating it, is actually one of the ways forward, I think.
You were telling us last week that the players can just phone agents and say cheerio. There's not an awful lot they can do about that. The company that were looking after him until today were called Grupo Santos. I would imagine they're quite a big concern. I wonder how they're feeling. Or maybe if they've got a piece of that, the last deal he did, maybe not too bad. But how do you think that they'll be viewing that today? Were it your business to have lost a player like that, what would your mood be?
Well, here's the interesting caveat to that question. Technically, if I represented him and he was here in England and I had him on let's say a 4-year deal, and I was getting £500,000 a year, my commission was £2 million, I was getting £500,000 a year for the next 3 years beyond the first tranche. He gives me notice today. Technically, I lose the rest of it.
Wow.
Because that's how it works.
Really? So you'd only get... So that's the way it works. So even though as long as he'd stay with you, you get the full amount, but that's how precarious it is.
That's how precarious it is. I mean, the bigger agents will put caveats into their contract, and then it's up to the FA if they sign up on that. And bear in mind, you can only sign a player for 2 years anyway. So if he's on a 4-year deal and he leaves you after 2 years, you would automatically lose that commission unless it's written in and unless you've got an understanding with the club. But only really the big agents get that, or the big deals get that, where the clubs are hungry for the player.
The last big deal that we saw in the summer, the Pogba deal, for example, if you know, in that situation, it's very difficult for Griezmann to sort of be his own agent, because you can't be in a situation where he's, you know, battling out for an extra 25 million like Mino Raiola did, or whatever the money figure was. You know, he's just basically going to be talking about his wages and how much the deal is to the club. It's quite a difficult position to be in, isn't it?
It sounds like old Eric Hats and his dad will be the buffer, John. There'll still be a buffer involved. I don't think he won't be going toe-to-toe with, I don't know, Roman Abramovich, were it to be Chelsea who covet him. There'll be some kind of buffer, if you say accountants, other people there to spare in that, you would think.
The likelihood is he will have a lawyer. There'll be 2 lawyers there, one on versed in the law of that country and one versed in sports law, and one versed in sports law. There'd be an accountant, and there may well be a little bit of negotiating at the very end where he says, and you know, by the way, that £120,000, £180,000, £400,000 a week that I'm getting, can you also pay my father £100,000 a year for the next 4 years because he's my advisor?
Yeah, as we said, keeping it in the family is becoming far more common, isn't it?
And Eric Olhats is going to want
Eric Olhats is going to want a piece of the action. He always does. That's right.
Everything goes in a circle. The old hat comes back and it becomes new.
That's right. John, thanks very much.
Yes.
You're very welcome.
There we are, the top football agent, John Smith there. His book, The Deal, is available now. Lots of war stories from the world of not just football, but other businesses John's been involved in as well.
Very much so, yeah.
So, maybe you could take on... I think you'd be a great agent, Andy.
I'd be a terrible agent.
But the idea of the player going in and having to get in that situation, you know, where it's saying Roman Samuel will pay you this much, and he's saying, no, I'm walking out, you know, and just having to just...
It's very... I think it's hard to negotiate for yourself because... You know, I'd imagine it's a lot easier if you've got an agent working on your behalf.
Indeed, which is why, of course, people have them. So there we are. We will look ahead to tonight's games featuring Southampton and Manchester United. Mark Langdon will join us from the Racing Post. Excuse me. We don't know a great deal about Feyenoord. Recently, anyway, we know they're a fine club.
Or Sparta Prague.
Or Sparta Prague. But what are they like at the moment? Thankfully, Mark Langdon does. And he'll be filling us in on that one. Don't forget, that's live from 6 o'clock. Ray Stubbs, your host, for Feyenoord versus Manchester United in the Europa League, a competition that Jose neither needs, wants, or likes. So there we are.
It's a strange thing to say.
Well, you can understand it, though. I think he's making the point. We shouldn't be here. And
they have got a very difficult week where I think they play... either Sunday night, the last game, either or something like that. Then they play Thursday, and then they got Chelsea on the Sunday. So I think they've got Liverpool, one of those games, and then Chelsea. So it's that is a tough week. 3 difficult games in 6 days.
We know David Luiz is now going to play tomorrow because Conte said so this afternoon. So how are you feeling about that? I mean, he had to play at some time. You spent 32 million quid on him.
I'm quite happy about it. I think he's a good player. Personally, think he's a pretty decent player. But you know, we'll see tomorrow, won't we?
He'll be alongside Cahill, won't he?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah.
And now, what were those two like generally together?
They were pretty good in the Champions League final, weren't they?
Yeah, well, because John Terry wasn't there, as we know. Well, he popped up at the end. Infamously, didn't he?
After the match.
Popped up at the end. That's what he was suspended. So there we are. That was this afternoon's show. Eric Olhats had more mentions on TalkSport than he's probably ever had before, but, you know.
I got a bit bored with this old hat to me now.
Yeah, it was a bit old hat, wasn't it? Yeah, it's crying out for that. I wonder if any chairman... That's how you'd lose the Griezmann deal if you started doing old hat gags. That's a bit old hat. And then you look at Eric's face and it's like thunder. And you know he's not going to sign for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, although if it is Chelsea, you've got a good chance because I can't see Roman Abramovich doing old hat gags.
Well, I don't know, he does like an old hat gag.
Yeah, he does, yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. Have a good evening. We've got the clips of the week and more tomorrow from 1.
The Hawksbee and Jacobs podcast on TalkSport with Yorkshire Tea. Let's have a proper brew.